Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We love to go deep on really fascinating topics here. And, well, today's topic is no exception. We're going to be looking at the energetic and kind of the metaphysical side of consensual sex. And what makes this particular deep dive so interesting is the source material we're using to look at it,
Yeah, for sure.
which is a guided regression hypnosis session.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. We've been looking at a transcript, a YouTube video featuring a woman named Tamara, and she underwent regressive hypnosis with a hypnotist named Elena Sagalaeva,
Mhm.
and their session focused on the non-physical experiences that occur during sexual activity.
Yeah. So we really want to try to distill for you the key insights that came out of this exploration. We want to uncover some kind of unexpected and surprising details about the energetic dynamics at play. Maybe look at some potential pitfalls to be aware of, and even try to get a sense of maybe what an ideal state for these types of connections could be. So we're not just talking about the physical act of sex.
Right.
We're going to be going beyond that. And right from the start, Timmer had an observation that was pretty interesting. She described a sense of almost a disconnect between the physical side of sex, which she estimated at about 90%, and the metaphysical, which is only about 10% in the modern world.
Wow.
And she contrasted that with what she kind of perceived was happening in earlier times, like in the 15th and 16th centuries.
Interesting. So to kind of unpack that initial idea a bit more, it seems like what she's saying is that this imbalance is probably being heavily influenced by societal factors, and she specifically mentioned pornography as a contributing factor to this. The idea being that this emphasis on the physical actually gets in the way of a deeper spiritual connection during intimacy.
Exactly.
So it becomes more about physical gratification driven by the brain and less about an energetic exchange.
Yeah. And that takes us really to the first key point that we pulled out of the session, which is this energetic exchange that she observed happening during sex. She describes initially a sense of a vast amount of information being present, but also this feeling of separation between historical and modern experiences because of these distortions that we just talked about.
Right.
But when we focus on a consenting couple in modern times, she did observe these really powerful but very brief moments
Okay.
where an energetic exchange takes place. And these are fleeting moments. We're talking like seconds or even fractions of a second.
Huh.
But the way that she describes it is as a creation of new energy
Hmm.
and potentially even a new life on an energetic level being formed.
Wow. So even if the focus is primarily physical, there's still something happening there energetically.
Yes.
But she points out that if the couple's connection doesn't go beyond the physical, if they lack a deeper understanding of one another and desire, then this newly created energy tends to dissipate into the surrounding space.
Right. It's like they're generating something powerful,
Yeah.
but they don't really have a shared foundation or intention to hold it.
Right.
And so it just kind of diffuses. And she thinks that that could be a key reason why a lot of couples just can't seem to understand each other's desires,
Mm-hmm.
because that deeper energetic link is not being cultivated or sustained.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not retained or built upon as kind of this shared resource.
Yeah, and she also observed that in our modern world, it seems like our subtle bodies, and you can kind of think of those as energetic layers around the physical body, like a blueprint, tend to create boundaries.
Okay.
So almost like maybe as a way to defend against perceived threats within what she called the matrix space.
Interesting. So it's almost like there's a connection made during sex and this pleasure is being experienced and this energy is being created.
Mhm.
But then the subtle bodies kind of retreat back into their own individual shells
Right.
afterwards. And she describes a code memory of the experience remaining,
Oh, wow.
but not necessarily an ongoing energetic merging or sharing. And she also noted a difference in the way that this code memory is retained between men and women,
Really?
where men seem to hold on to the memory and the code
Yeah.
of that pleasure and that creation more so than women do.
Huh. It seems like maybe the male energy values and preserves it more, and female energy kind of loses it more readily.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
But she also points out that this state of the subtle bodies isn't fixed,
Okay.
that it is adaptable, and that it's influenced significantly by the physical realm, by our thoughts, by our mindset.
Hmm.
And this is where she thinks things can become a little less beneficial because she believes that this influence can lead to kind of a need-based approach to sex,
Right.
where it becomes about the brain seeking a physical release instead of a deeply connected experience. So kind of a learned dependency almost.
Yeah, like just chasing that dopamine hit.
Exactly. But it's not just our mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Even spiritual practices can have an impact. And she specifically mentioned that people who practice yoga, who have experienced Kundalini energy, Um, she observed that improper concentration, and she noted specifically women who might be focusing on their reproductive area in a way that causes energy to leak downwards,
Mm-hmm.
that they can actually disrupt a healthy energetic exchange. And she contrasted that with men's natural focus on their erogenous zones, which she seemed to think supported their creative potential and desire.
Interesting.
And this improper concentration for women in particular, she also linked to irritability.
Oh, wow.
So, it seems like even if we have good intentions, if we don't have the right understanding and the right application of these types of practices, we could be creating some unintended consequences.
Right. Yeah.
So we've looked at this energetic exchange
Yeah.
and some of the factors that can influence it. Let's move on to what she describes as the primary energy generated after consensual sex.
Okay, so this initial energy viewed from both the male and female perspectives is described as being like a firework, like a lotus flower unfolding with many colors resembling the colors of the rainbow. And this energy represents essentially a rebirth of energy. So it's a really potent and vibrant creation that arises from that connection.
And this newly formed energy has two potential pathways, according to Tamara.
Okay.
It can either dissipate into the surrounding space, as we talked about earlier, if the connection's not strong,
Right.
or ideally, it contributes to the couple's sense of wholeness and their ability to create together in a really powerful way. She even suggested it could contribute to the development of unconditional love through this reinforcement process, and that this can further fuel creative energy within the relationship.
So it sounds like a fundamental building block for a deeper connection.
Exactly. However, despite this incredible power, she points out that this primary energy is short-lived and dissolves relatively quickly, so it's fleeting. But she says that it holds the potential to return anything in life.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, it is. So what are the qualities, then, that she's attributing to this primary energy that would give it that potential?
She describes it as possessing healing properties, the ability to help manifest desires even in very challenging situations, and the capacity to instill a deep sense of confidence. So it's almost like it has qualities we normally associate with magic.
Wow. So it really is just this burst of pure potential that really needs to be nurtured and directed with intention to have a lasting effect.
For sure.
Now, moving beyond this initial burst of primary energy, Tamara also observed different kinds of energies being produced during the act itself, both on the physical level and on this metaphysical level that we keep talking about.
Yeah.
So on the physical level, it's a pretty straightforward description. She likens it to a lamp igniting. So starting with green or yellow hues during a rouse, intensifying to red at the peak of excitement and orgasm, and then gradually returning to a more neutral color afterwards.
So it's pretty easy to visualize.
Yeah, exactly. But what's happening on the metaphysical level?
Metaphysically, she describes how when there is mutual consent and pleasure involved, that the male and female energies, each containing different colors, they come together and unite. And this union, she feels, is born from feelings of trust, safety, freedom, and enjoyment. And it creates a beautiful energy that she describes as almost being tangible, like something you would want to touch rather than just observe.
Right. It sounds really beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very positive interaction. So how do these individual energetic fields actually come together and interact during sex?
Yeah, what is that process like?
She describes it as a gradual coming together and merging that originates from the solar plexus area.
Okay.
Kind of that central point in your abdomen that is associated with, personal power and connection. And it resembles two hands of energy intertwining and then forming a sphere of combined energy. And the sphere grows and intensifies as the intimacy deepens.
And what does she describe as happening at the peak of that interaction?
Okay, so at the peak of pleasure, this combined energy rapidly disperses outwards. But for couples who have a more open and attuned connection, a connection that's more than just physical, she observed that this released energy actually flows back to them, creating a shared energetic sphere that encompasses both individuals.
So what are the benefits of this shared energetic sphere?
Okay, well, this shared energy is said to foster this kind of telepathic understanding, this heightened intuition, a deep feeling of care and trust, and even this ability to navigate minor disagreements or irritations within the relationship.
Right. It's like they're creating this shared reservoir of positive energy that they can both draw from.
Exactly. She also touches on how this shared energy is also fundamental in attracting new life to a couple.
Right, so a child coming into the relationship.
Yeah, and she says the energy itself almost seems to know when and how a new life should arrive and works to create the conditions over time. So it's kind of this really interesting perspective that kind of goes beyond just the biological explanation of conception.
Yeah, it really is. So are there any potential dangers on this metaphysical level
Okay.
during consensual sex that she identified?
Well, the primary danger that she really highlighted is the idea of interferences. So specifically entities that can steal energy.
Hmm.
And she suggested that this might manifest as sexual dependency in individuals who constantly seek out sex, even if it's causing discomfort to their partners.
Oh, wow.
So if there's this persistent craving for sex, even at the expense of the other person's well-being, that could be a potential sign of this energetic interference happening.
Well, that's kind of unsettling,
Yeah.
that there might be external influences affecting our most intimate desires and behaviors.
Yeah.
This kind of takes us back to her initial observation about the impact of the modern world
Yeah.
and the perceived loss of spirituality
Yeah.
on all of this.
Mm-hmm.
This emphasis on the physical side of sex at the expense of the metaphysical.
Right.
She directly links this to a broader departure from spirituality in modern life.
Mm-hmm.
And she feels that women are particularly affected by this because of a lack of knowledge about managing their own bodies and their own energies.
Yeah. So she's saying that ideally the female body, as the vessel that gives life, should have a balanced flow of energy between these subtle and physical realms.
Okay.
But that modern women are kind of focused on mental work and career and societal obligations. And all of this leads to a blockage of their reproductive energy.
Yes. The reproductive function is often kind of relegated to a secondary role,
Right.
where it's seen as a way of just self-realization as a mother.
Yeah.
After you've done all these other things.
Yeah, career, finances, intellect.
Right.
Yeah.
And she thinks that this shift, which has been happening over, decades and centuries,
Wow.
has created a huge energetic imbalance within women. And she links this to negative health consequences, specifically the uterus and the mammary glands. And she even suggests that it could potentially contribute to health issues in offspring,
Oh, wow.
things like allergies. So it's pretty far-reaching what she's claiming here.
It is, and she describes it as a cumulative effect. Like this misdirection of energy is almost a snowball effect that contributes to a lot of the health and well-being challenges that a lot of women face today.
Yeah. So how does this all contrast with the energetic dynamics that she observed in conscious and loving partnerships?
Well, in contrast to these imbalances, she did see that in conscious and loving partnerships where both individuals are learning and exploring the energies that they create together, women are consistently generating new life-giving energy both within themselves and with their partner.
And what are the benefits of this positive and reciprocal energetic exchange?
Okay, well, this makes them strong and protected against those lower vibrational energy intrusions we were talking about. And it prevents disruption of their consciousness, their well-being, and their perception of the world.
So it's almost like their love creates a shield for them.
Exactly.
And she also noticed an enhanced sense of perception for couples who have achieved this kind of harmony.
Yeah, they experience a boundless connection to the universe and feel even the smallest things as being alive and as necessary energy. So they're experiencing reality in a very different way.
Wow, it sounds like a really evolved and connected state of being.
Yeah.
And is there potential for further growth within these partnerships?
Well, once this state is achieved, further evolutionary development is almost inevitable, according to her.
Mm-hmm.
The only challenge she saw was if one partner was to pass away,
Oh, yeah.
which would lead to a temporary but manageable imbalance,
Okay.
and that can regenerate over time.
So it's almost like the deep connection leaves an imprint
Yeah, exactly.
that can be rebuilt from.
It's a very hopeful perspective.
It is. So let's talk about how this energetic exchange during intimacy might influence creative energy on a more physical level.
Okay.
Tamara mentioned that there are misunderstandings in this area.
Yeah, she emphasizes that couples exchange all sorts of energy, high, neutral, and even low or negative energies.
Right, so it's not always just positive.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
And what kind of impact can these lower vibrational energies have when they're exchanged?
Well, she indicated that they can create disturbances, almost like cracks or weaknesses in the energetic field, and they can have more lasting, even painful effects.
Well, wow.
And while high vibrational energy can manifest pretty quickly, she said that negative energy tends to linger and kind of have a more persistent, damaging impact on the energetic system.
So it's really important to bring a lot of positive intention and a loving energy into our intimate encounters.
Yeah, for sure.
She also explored a specific scenario, which is What might happen energetically when a man in a conscious and loving partnership is experiencing stress and his partner, despite her love for him, declines his request for intimacy.
Okay.
In a more evolved conscious partnership, she felt that the man would approach the situation with understanding, asking questions, and communicating openly with his partner. And, physical intimacy might not even be the primary need because their existing deep connection could provide enough comfort and support. Wow, so they're really operating on a level that's beyond just the physical.
Yeah.
But what about a couple who are less spiritually attuned or haven't cultivated this deeper connection? How might that scenario look different?
Well, for a less spiritually developed man, this refusal could feel like a rejection.
Right.
And cause inner turmoil, feelings of inadequacy, even manifesting as physical discomfort or issues. And the lack of that energetic understanding and connection amplifies the impact of that refusal.
Yeah, for sure. So let's look at the potential energetic consequences for a woman who engages in sex without love, maybe just for her partner's gratification, but there's no desire or genuine connection from her side.
Okay.
Her observations here are pretty striking.
They are, she describes it as potentially catastrophic on an energetic level.
Oh, wow.
Primarily, she noted that the brain can create a dependency on the physical act for pleasure,
Okay.
effectively overriding the deeper emotional and energetic needs. And this can kind of create a cycle of needing more and more.
And what happens to her reproductive system energetically?
She visualizes the reproductive area as almost being consumed by cancerous cells, creating a sense of emptiness that impacts her well-being on multiple levels.
Oh, wow. So there's like a real energetic depletion happening there.
Yeah, exactly.
And do these repercussions extend beyond the physical and energetic aspects of her reproductive system?
Yeah, for sure. She felt that this emptiness can actually contribute to things like depression and even a sense of disintegration of the personality.
Wow.
Low self-esteem, aggression, and it all really comes back to this lack of positive energetic exchange.
So where does this leaked energy go in situations where sex lacks love and connection?
Okay, so initially she observed that it flows downwards into the earth.
All right.
But because it lacks love and fulfillment and meaning, the things that we need for positive creation, it doesn't serve to give life or to heal or bring joy.
So it's almost like it's just this kind of negative outflow.
Yeah, exactly. And she even went on to say that it creates this layer of low vibrational or operational energy around the earth.
Wow.
Almost like a portal or attractor for lower vibrational entities. And she believes that this negativity contributes to conflict and war.
Oh, wow. So she's saying humanity is collectively creating this through these imbalances.
It's like this cap or fungal network of negative energy enveloping the planet.
Wow, that's a disturbing thought.
It is.
So she also talked about the different focuses that men and women have during sex. So she observed that men often approach sex in a very direct way as a means to experience pleasure.
Okay.
And while the biological imperative for reproduction is there, she feels their immediate focus is more on physical gratification.
So it's very straightforward for men.
Yeah. And what about women? What is their focus?
Well, for women, while reproduction is definitely a part of it on a biological level, she feels their focus is more on energetically connecting and creating with their partner on this deeper level. And she feels like this energetic creation happens more naturally and powerfully when male and female energies are drawn together with love and spiritual connection.
So not just the physical act itself.
Right.
There needs to be more.
Yeah. So she also offered an interesting insight into what motivates male commitment in relationships.
Okay.
She noted that men, being generally more goal-oriented, will stay and invest in situations, including their relationships, where they feel good and fulfilled. So it's tied to their overall sense of positive experience.
Right. So if they're feeling good in the relationship, they're more likely to stick around.
Pretty much, yeah. And then on the flip side, for women, she observed that they often burden themselves, and this can make it harder for them to kind of showcase their true open nature, which is something that she actually described as being a significant challenge globally.
Right. So let's talk about initial attraction. That chemistry that people often feel when they first meet. What's happening energetically, according to Tamara.
She suggests that it's a combination of pheromones on a physical level.
Okay.
And then this meeting or resonance of energies on the higher level, so mental and emotional planes.
So you really need both of those.
Yeah. And she feels like these initial feelings can be part of this, preordained karmic connection between individual.
But that initial spark doesn't always guarantee long-term compatibility.
Exactly.
Or even a deep connection,
Right.
does it?
No, she points out that the conscious mind can override these energetic pulls.
Right.
And if a couple focuses solely on the physical gratification of that initial chemistry without putting work into developing a deeper connection on other levels, it can lead to misalignment and the relationship might not last.
Yeah. Now, she also had this perspective that challenges a pretty common belief about subconscious mate selection in men.
Yes, she didn't agree with the purely biological viewpoint that men subconsciously choose partners based on their ability to produce offspring.
Right.
She saw some different things happening from the hypnotic state.
Okay, so what are those key factors, then, that drive attraction in men from an energetic level?
So she feels that the primary draws are a woman's eyes, the fullness of her gaze, her genuine smile, and her overall, lightness and joyfulness. So the energetic manifestation of happiness and vitality.
So men are drawn to a woman who radiates joy and happiness.
Yeah, pretty much. And she had this interesting observation that men might even fear physical intimacy initially with a woman that they're very drawn to energetically because they worry that the physical act will ruin their idealized perception of her.
Wow.
Or that special energetic connection.
So almost like they want to preserve it and not mess it up.
Exactly.
By bringing the physical in too soon.
Yeah. And she also said that men can become very deeply energetically attached to women like this.
It's really interesting. It really offers a very different perspective on attraction and relationships. Now, let's talk about that significant difference that Tamara observed between relationships in the 15th and 16th centuries and today.
Right.
With that distortion that she sees as a result of pornography.
Yeah, she saw a stark contrast there, and she identifies technology as being kind of the conduit for this distortion. The modern environment, she felt, has really prioritized this workforce that operates more like robots, often at the expense of spiritual development and real human connection.
And how does pornography fit into this?
Well, she believes that pornography was introduced through technology as a deliberate formula designed to alter human structure and behavior with the goal of distancing people from their true selves.
Wow. So you're saying that maybe a population that's less connected to their authentic selves is easier to manage?
That was kind of the implication there.
Yeah.
And she feels that, real happiness and a sense of fulfillment, especially those connected to our creative and reproductive energies, are a key to understanding ourselves as creators. And the technogenic environment that we've created has basically kind of weaponized pornography to distort this understanding.
So it's not just a harmless form of entertainment then?
No, she sees it as something much deeper.
Yeah, for sure. Now, she did reaffirm that connection between harmonious couples and new life coming into being.
Right. She reiterated that couples who have a harmonious energetic exchange naturally generate an energy field that attracts new life to them.
And what was her concluding thought from this hypnosis session?
She emphasized the importance of focusing our attention on the reproductive area for both men and women. And she referenced the ancient wisdom of yoga, specifically hatha yoga, as being helpful in cultivating this kind of awareness.
Yeah. So it seems like bringing more awareness to these energetic centers could be really important in having healthier, more balanced, more fulfilling relationships.
Yeah, for sure. It brings the focus back to inner awareness and the power of our intention.
Yeah. Well, this has been a truly deep dive into a really fascinating topic. And to summarize for our listener, the energetic dance that's happening during intimacy goes so far beyond just the physical act.
Yeah.
It's influenced by our mindset, our level of spiritual connection, and even societal factors. The energy that's created can either nourish the relationship and attract positive outcomes, or it can dissipate and contribute to imbalances both personally and maybe even on a planetary level.
It's really powerful stuff. And for me, a detail that really stood out was that concept of the subtle body boundaries and how they work as this kind of protective mechanism in our modern world. And also the gender difference in how we retain the energetic imprint of these experiences.
Yeah, for me, it was the idea of that primary energy, that fleeting but really potent burst of creation that she said had the potential to return anything in life. It makes you think about how we can become more attuned to recognizing and even harnessing that.
Yeah.
So here's a thought for you to consider. Given everything we've talked about today, how might the modern emphasis on just the physical aspects of intimacy and the constant stimulation from artificial intimacy like pornography impacting your own energetic connections and your overall well-being? And what small conscious shift could you make in your life to cultivate a deeper, more energetically nourishing approach to intimacy and connection in all its forms?
It's a great question to contemplate.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you later.